Yo, what's good? Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you as always for making today's show a part of your day. And on the show, two stories that we want to get to. Does Paul George want to be a Philadelphia 76er? And then in the latter half of the program, the Sixers, according to Keith Pompey, Philadelphia Inquirer, are willing to pay Jimmy Butler a max contract extension if they were to pull off a trade for him. First, this is today's poll question. And by the way, I hate this headshot from Jimmy Butler. It's creepy. It looks awful. I know that Jimmy Butler just wanted people to talk about it and probably laugh, but that's wild right there. Either way, pick a player that you'd want the Sixers to acquire. PG for Paul George, JB for Jimmy Butler. That's today's poll question, and it's our pinned comment, so go on down and share your opinions. We begin here with Paul George. He praised Joel Embiid during his podcast, and the clip from that podcast from January has resurfaced because he's set to be a free agent. Philadelphia is said to be very interested in him. Daryl Morey, according to Kevin O'Connor, which we talked about on yesterday's show, looks at PG-13 as the ultimate option alongside Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. So a lot of people are theorizing, does Paul George secretly want to be a Philadelphia 76er? Here's what he had to say about Embiid. You can't stop him. He's too big. He's agile. He can shoot. He could step out from the three-point line. He's just a big body. He's our generation and our version of Shaq. There's nobody that we can put on Shaq. There's nobody that you can put on Joel Embiid. You put a big on him, he's going to go around him. You put a small on him, he's going to punish him. He plays the new big spot, how a big is supposed to play. He's got it all. He's doing a Euro step. What big man got a Euro down? And he's funny. I'm a big fan of Joel, man. We got a good relationship. Every All-Star game, we chop it up. And I've said here on the show plenty of times that Joel Embiid physically is this generation Shaquille O'Neal because of his unique skill set, how he can overpower opponents. Frankly, I wish that sometimes he'd spend less time around the perimeter and more time on the low block, but I feel like he does do that by offensive system design and the fact that he gets a little bit tired. But either way, he's a spectacle to watch because of what he's able to do at his size, and game respects game. George clearly respects Joel Embiid as a player, and they have a good friendship already. Could they use that friendship to their advantage to pair up in Philadelphia here? You know what else players care about? Getting paid what they feel as though they are worth. You know what players and us as normal people care about? Our employers valuing and appreciating us. Well, the Los Angeles Clippers are not willing to give Paul George a contract extension and a max. At least that hasn't happened up to this point because that deadline passed. And instead, they paid Kawhi Leonard over PG-13. But Philadelphia here has the money. George and Embiid have the relationship, and they can make this on-court pairing work. Had the Clippers been cheaping out, per the aforementioned Keith Pompey, the Clippers won't pay Paul George more than a 3-year, $152.3 million deal. That's what Kawhi Leonard got, and they're hoping that Paul George takes a hometown discount. If I was Paul George, I'd feel a little bit disrespected. I've been available more than Kawhi Leonard. I've arguably been better than Kawhi Leonard. And you look at that deal that the Clippers could pay him compared to the contract that he could field from the Philadelphia 76ers, a 4-year, $221 max deal. That's a lot better and a lot more money. $71 million more than the 3 years for $150 chip that he can get from the Los Angeles Clippers.
And if you're Paul George, not only can you get more money per year from the Sixers, you get that extra year on your deal. Paul George, as we mentioned, is getting older. This is probably his last chance to cash out on a big contract. Why would you want to sign for 1 year less, knowing that once that contract is up, you're not going to be making $50 million a year anymore? You're going to be making way less. The Sixers can give you that security for 4 more seasons. And I know I see people in the comments saying, but why would he, pick up everything and go move to the East Coast. He's an LA guy. He came to the Clippers to play with Kawhi Leonard and to play in his hometown. And that's true. And, I'm sure he does want to play in LA. And similar to Jimmy Butler, which we'll get to later, Jimmy wants to play in Miami. But these players want to get paid, especially as they get older. They want to get what they're worth. Clearly, Paul George feels he is still worth that max deal, as he should feel.
Yep.
And if he's not going to get that from the Clippers, then the Sixers are going to put that pressure on LA and say, you know what? You don't offer it, we're going to offer it, and we'll see if he's going to take that hometown discount or not.
There's also this. Paul George, let me pose this question for you. Has it worked out for you and Kawhi Leonard with the Clippers? And then you're looking at Philadelphia's situation here. You have the coach in Nick Nurse, who's proven to be elite. He's won a championship. You have a blossoming superstar in Tyrese Maxey. We saw what he was able to do, how he can carry a team in a playoff series against the New York Knicks and rise up to the occasion, hit some daggers, and if you get a healthy Joel Embiid on top of that, that's a better basketball situation than the Clippers and a better financial situation than what the Clippers can offer him. Coming up next, Sixers willing to pay up for Jimmy Butler. We're going to dive into that, but first, make sure you sign up with the Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks is the only app that I use because with Prize Picks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections, and you're locked in. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays, Taco Tuesday, which increases your chances of getting a win, to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. NBA Finals coming up. I think it's going to be the Dallas Mavericks who punched their ticket out of the West. Celtics have already done that in the East, and the Finals mean more on Prize Picks, and so do the star players. You get boosted payouts on select basketball stars that you won't find anywhere else. Here are some selections that we're cooking up. Let's go UFC. Yeah, we got versatility to our bag. Dustin Poirier, more than a half significant strike. That's the special because it was 25.5. Anthony Edwards, more than 28.5 points against the Mavs on Thursday. Game 5 in Minneapolis. And then Luka Doncic, more than 8.5 dimes. Win big money. Withdraw your winnings within the Prize Picks app. There's always action on the site, so get in on the action with Prize Picks today. Sixers paying up for Jimmy Butler. It appears as though they're willing to do that. Keith Pompey, Philadelphia Inquirer, is saying and reporting that the Sixers are willing to give Butler a max deal if he requests a trade. It is no secret that the 76ers are closely monitoring Jimmy Butler's contract situation with the Miami Heat. The Sixers view him as a fallback option if they are unable to sign Paul George in free agency. And according to sources, the Sixers are prepared to give Butler a maximum salary extension if things align and he forces a trade out of Miami. Whatever happens, the Sixers realize they made a mistake by sending Butler to the Heat via a trade 5 years ago. He brought a relentlessness they haven't had since his departure. Jimmy Butler with Miami, it has been reported, wants a 2-year, $113 million extension on top of the deal that he signed a couple of years ago. And is Miami willing to pay him that? That's a team that's in somewhat decline. They have some question marks around Jimmy Butler, and up to this point, they have not been willing to give him that dough. Whereas Philadelphia, they understand the timeline, they understand the opportunity, they understand the magnitude of this offseason, and they are willing to pay Jimmy Butler. And Daryl Morey clearly looking to be aggressive this offseason, understanding the opportunity at hand. All this cap space, really good pieces on this roster, an Eastern Conference that's much more wide open and less deep than the Western Conference, and it's a lot of money for Jimmy Butler. That's a short-term deal here. the Sixers will have competition because people realize the relentlessness that Butler has that we just talked about, the competitive drive, the previous playoff successes where he's looked like the best player in the planet. And I think Philadelphia understands that Jimmy Butler, Paul George, players of that makeup, players of that talent level, players of that versatility on both ends of the floor are the perfect complement next to the two stars that you have in Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and that could propel you past the second round for the first time since 2001 and allow you to seriously compete in the East. Anthony Chang, Miami Herald, with some more on the Jimmy Butler rumors. Along with the 76ers, according to league sources, there are two other teams that have made it known in league circles that they would be willing to trade for Butler and sign him to a max-level contract. Butler turns 35 on September 14th. And of course, that is a concern. Butler, age 35 season, he's been a little bit brittle throughout his career. In the regular season, doesn't always take it seriously because he's one of the leaders of the load management brigade. But look, when it comes time for the playoffs, Jimmy Butler always turns it on. And that's a player who can get you a bucket anytime, anywhere, any place in the playoffs. Now, he has said that he wants to be in Miami. Why? Well, they've shown that they wanted him a couple of years ago. I can't believe it's been 5 years at this point when the Sixers traded him away and Philadelphia did not want him. They did not envision a future in which Butler was going to be symbiotic with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Brett Brown. They elected to give Tobias Harris big money. That's a mistake, and Jimmy Butler embodies that Heat culture. Here's what he had to say. I feel at home. I really care about the city. I really care about the people in this city. Miami has embraced me. They've wanted me to bring them something they haven't done since LeBron, D. Wade, and C. Bosh, and I want to do that. So as soon as I get this knee back right, I'm right back on their ass, and everybody knows it. That's the type of attitude, that's the type of swagger that I want in Philadelphia. I'm right back on their ass. And as soon as he comes off that knee injury, you know that Jimmy Butler is going to be back in the gym, back in the lab, grinding, working on his stamina, working on his craft, working on his deficiencies, and that relentless pursuit of trying to win his first championship. Once again, Chip mentioned it a little while ago, and it's easy to understand why. Players want to be paid. So would Jimmy Butler take a discount to stay with Miami? Here's the bottom line when Philadelphia enters the equation here is that the Sixers, they have the money to put pressure on these other teams. And you also have to factor this in. We talked about it with OG Anunoby. We could talk about it with Jimmy Butler. Do you force other teams to overpay, which then kind of diminishes their roster to a certain degree with the pieces that they're able to add, Chip? Jimmy Butler to Philly, Paul George to Philly, the rumors that will not die.
Yeah, and look, when it comes to Paul George, comes to Jimmy, you know, I have no doubt in my mind the Heat would love to keep Jimmy around, right? But do they want to keep him around for over $50 million a year? He wants that 2-year, $113 million deal. And the Sixers are really the only true contender. You know, I know Orlando is up and coming, but really the only true contender with cap space this offseason. And what's a little bit of a weird offseason because there's not very many marquee free agents, right? But there are players now, you're seeing some guys, you know, Jimmy Butler, that are coming out and saying, you know, I want to get paid because Jimmy's going to be 35. It's very similar situations here with Paul George and Jimmy Butler. And the Heat haven't really come out and said, like, yeah, we're going to pay Jimmy. They haven't said that yet. And if Jimmy wants to get paid this last max deal, again, like Paul George said he can, well, the Sixers can pay him that. And the Heat, if they're not going to pay him that, the Sixers got a few picks they can throw the Heat way. Maybe the Heat are fine with, you know, Jimmy walk. We'll build around Bam, we'll build around Hero, and we don't want to pay Jimmy $50 million. But from the Sixers' perspective, like, yeah, it's a lot of money. I get he's older and has dealt with injuries, but it's only a 2-year deal.
Right.
So if it doesn't work out, 2 years go by, you can reset a little bit. But again, the Sixers, they got this money. Teams aren't just going to be able to sit around and hope their players take discounts because Daryl Morey and the Sixers, they're being aggressive.
And we do want to pass along a Jimmy Butler trade idea that we saw from Bleacher Report. I think this is something in the realm of what could get it done. I think that the sticking point could be the fact that Philadelphia and Miami, semi-rivals in the East at the very least, if you don't think that they're rivals, because there is bad blood between these two teams. They've met in the playoffs a couple of times in recent memory. They're at least competing in the East, and they don't want to make the other team better. But look, a trade did happen 5 years ago between these two clubs. 76ers received Jimmy Butler. Then Philadelphia extends him 2 years, $113 million. Do you feel better about that than giving Paul George all that money? Think about that. And then the Heat receive a first-round pick this year from Philly, 16th overall, the 2026 first from OKC, Houston, and the Clippers. That's been on the move quite frequently. And then that first again from the Clippers and that James Harden trade in 2028. And those draft assets, look, if you end up trading away James Harden and in turn you can land a Jimmy Butler, that's why you made that trade, which, by the way, didn't hold the Sixers back at all because it allowed Tyrese Maxey to really step into that star role. Would you accept this trade? A for accept, D for decline. What an incredible offseason it's already been for Philadelphia with so many juicy talking points, and we're going to continue to have you covered every step of the way. We've been putting out about 6 videos a week. Hopefully everybody out there has been enjoying the content. The views have been awesome. Let's continue to keep this train rolling. Hit that sub button.